Welcome everyone to Silver Screen Slam, where we praise those wonderful moving pictures we have all held so close to us over the past century. I'm your good-looking host, Jake Brown, here to welcome you to the glorious world of cinematic expression, where the timeless beauty of art meets the ever-evolving awe of modern technology. So come join me each episode as we keep a close eye on movies of the past and present and look at what we love, what we loathe, and what we let our loyal viewers voice about them. After each episode, we will ask you to voice your own opinion about upcoming movies we look into via our social media outlets at the bottom of your screen. With that being said, let's look at what we have for today. During each episode, we'll look at a movie that we feel warrants considerable praise for bringing many positive artistic elements to the screen. This may be a new release, a not-so-new release, or even one of the classics. In our previous episode, we looked at 1988's game-changing Japanese sci-fi adventure Akira, declaring it a revolutionary work not only in the world of animation, but also in the realm of unique and prophetic storytelling. In this episode, we'll look at a film that's very close to us here at Silver Screen Slam, the 1999 Oscar-winning midlife wake-up call, American Beauty, directed by Sam Mendes. But before we look at this episode's film, let's first talk some extras. If there's one thing we love here at Silver Screen Slam, it's when an artist takes time and effort to create lasting depth to their work. When a film can continue to creatively and intellectually impress, even after many viewings, that's something truly awesome, and it's something we cherish here on the show. Take a look at David Fincher's 2000 white-collar rebellion flick Fight Club, a film about abandoning material possessions and the aspirations of the modern-day work slave in order to hit rock bottom and find a type of spiritual enlightenment in the process. Throughout the story, the narrator, through the insistence of his strange new companion Tyler Durden, forfeits everything he has so he can fill certain psychological holes within himself and to gain a much better appreciation of the larger, more unforgiving world around him. These goals are achieved at first by the destruction of the narrator's physical possessions, then by the mutilation of what society views as the ideal male look through weekly, and eventually nightly, underground fighting matches close by around the city. And finally, the grand achievement is his and others' destruction of the financial stranglehold that major corporate entities have clamped on society through organized acts of revolutionary violence around the nation. This looks to be the primary message presented to the viewer by the authors, particularly through the companion character of Tyler Durden. It's one of letting go of everything one holds close to them in order to feel less restricted and more spiritually powerful as a human being. But there's a secondary message hiding under this one, a message seen through the eyes of the narrator himself. And this message, while sharing similarities with the primary message at the start, ultimately clashes with it by the conclusion of the film. While Tyler's unmatched certainty, confidence, and looks attempt to grab the viewer's attention and carry them through to his side of the story, the narrator's more subdued persona helps to sneak in the ultimate point of the film under the radar. A point that emphasizes the Buddhist concept of the middle path, having the narrator meet his former cocoon self and his liberated companion halfway by the story's end. And the movie does an excellent job of layering these two opposing messages to where the narrator's point of view is often missed, if not at least deemed secondary to Tyler's. This style of tiered, disparate ideas, with one being tucked closely away under another completely conflicting idea, is an aspect of storytelling that I absolutely love. But Fight Club isn't the only film to utilize this type of thematic stratification, if you will. Looking at our previously explored Exit Through the Gift Shop reveals one of the most flawless jobs of hiding a much more important underlying statement in stark contrast with its supposed central one, as does work by great writer-directors such as Christopher Nolan and one of my favorites, the late great Stanley Kubrick. Works of art like these show us a different type of artist, one who takes great care to ensure that what they produce is not quite what it may look to be. Deep stuff, Jake. And that's coming from someone who's about to bring us to our profound feature flick of the episode, the 1999 close look at the deceptive world of suburban life, American Beauty. American Beauty was the full-length directorial debut of Sam Mendes and was written by screenwriter Alan Ball. The film stars Kevin Spacey and Annette Bening, as well as other impressive names, all who bring to life a story about a man named Lester Burnham, played by Spacey, who has settled into what looks to be an ideal life in turn-of-the-century American suburbia. Lester has a well-paying job, a loving wife who does as well, a beautiful daughter, and a nice house in a safe neighborhood. But upon closer inspection, the rose petals become stripped away, and the viewer sees Lester's life as increasingly mundane and unfulfilling, with Lester himself as a husband and father who consistently fails to satisfy those around him. Lester's wife, Carolyn, played by Benning, sees Lester as more of a status symbol that hasn't lived up to her expectations as she begins to develop feelings for a rival businessman in her career field. His daughter, Janie, is constantly embarrassed by him and wishes for him to simply stay out of her life. But it's when Lester meets Janie's teenage friend, Angela, played by Mina Suvari, at their high school's basketball game one night that sparks ignite in his brain. Lester is internally awakened by her beauty and begins to desire that youthful appeal he once had. However, on the outside, Lester comes off as weird and even more embarrassing to his family, as he makes futile attempts to keep his cool around Angela, causing Angela to notice and eventually exploit his behavior for her own apparent amusement. But now ignited, Lester's motivation is renewed as he looks for other ways to find his happiness that he lost long ago. He starts to stand up to his more dominating wife and makes attempts to reconnect with his distant daughter in the process. While doing so, Lester meets Ricky, his young next-door neighbor who goes to school with Janie and has started to show her interest as well. Lester and Ricky hit it off immediately as they both relay their shared love of classic sci-fi movies, and Ricky reintroduces Lester to the soothing effects of cannabis. However, while completely heterosexual, the relationship begins to catch the attention of Ricky's father, Colonel Frank Fitz, played by Chris Cooper, who shows suspicion that the relationship is instead one of a homosexual nature, which doesn't sit well at all with Colonel Fitz, as he presents a strong conservative social viewpoint, one of hostility towards such acts. Lester's increased infatuation with Angela, his bolder stance as a family man, more carefree and daring decisions, and misunderstood relationship with Ricky all come together in a heart-racing ending that may shake your perceptions of the world to their core. Let's take a quick look at a clip from the film.
What?
Whose car is that out front?
Mine. 1970 Pontiac Firebird, the car I've always wanted, and now I have it. I rule!
Where's the Camry?
I traded it in.
Shouldn't you have consulted me first?
Let me think. No, you never drove it. Have you done something different? You look great.
Where's Jane?
Jane not home. We have the whole house to ourselves. Christ, Carolyn. When did you become so joyless?
So what makes this movie so great? Well, for one, it's the film's declaration of the true beauty in the world. Yes, there are hardships. Yes, there are tragedies. Yes, the universe in its own unconscious way can be a cruel and frightening place. But it's also very special. Out of all the searching by our best minds, there has never been another life form so self-aware, so intelligent as we. Throughout the entirety of our civilization's history, there has never been as good a time as now, with our technological, societal, and moral advancements. We are our history's peak in nearly every way. And this fact is personified in Lester's gradual awakening, in his ultimate appreciation of his brief moment in the sun. And it's expressed even further through the voyeuristic lens of Ricky's camera, and on Janie's face when she's in love. In many ways, it shows us that there really is so much beauty in the world. But it also shows us sadness. Just like we discussed earlier, American Beauty presents two conflicting layers. In one, you have Lester, Ricky, Janie, and other characters' journeys toward happiness. But in the other, you have wife Carolyn, Colonel Fitz, and the submissive Mrs. Fitz in an entirely different place by the movie's end. The ambiguity of this story has prompted many different interpretations of it as a whole. Maybe it's one big message about the previously mentioned middle path. Maybe it's simply about our unfortunate blissful ignorance of what we have around us. But it's definitely more than just that. And writer Alan Ball does such a skillful job in carefully constructing the events of it all that by the film's conclusion, these messages are sure to stick with you like few others can. So then what was bad about American Beauty? I'd have to say the fact that it only won 5 Academy Awards and not more. The fact that Chris Cooper didn't win an Oscar for his phenomenal role as Colonel Fitz. The fact that when I've spoken to some about this film, they've voiced disgust over its take on human sexuality, yet haven't themselves bothered to look at the deeper messages about it within the writing and the presentation. The fact that I don't have enough time on this show to talk about the amazing cinematography and visual metaphors strategically placed throughout the entire film. The fact that Thomas Newman's musical score isn't in my music library right now. Gotta remember to purchase that. Go see this movie. You won't regret it. Or maybe you will. But then you'll come around. Huh? It's pretty good. Now that you've heard me ramble like a silly little goose this entire time, let's hear what the public has to say. And since our last episode, we look to have had another comment from Twitter user Anthony C11749. And it reads, "Do you only pick the most famous movies you've seen? Will you ever show something more risky?" Well, I'm assuming he means risque, and it's not that we don't appreciate the more esoteric art out there, but we try to pick films that are a little bit provocative, yet still understandable and relatable to many who watch Silver Screen Slam. Our goal with this show is to present our public with wonderful pieces of art that can not only stand well on their own, but also transition our viewers to more avant-garde work from there. But once again, we're always willing to take suggestions, and we do appreciate our viewer feedback. So thank you for your input. No, I was trying to time it up with the transition. Now, we've thought at length about what to recommend to our loyal viewers who may enjoy American Beauty. Earlier in the episode, we mentioned David Fincher's Fight Club, which closely shares with the film the idea of needing to escape the confines of contemporary middle-class superficiality. But looking closer, we feel that a better recommendation would be one that looks upon the deceptive facade held up by parts of society. Parts of a society that hide their characters' true vices and intents. And our minds immediately race to the early 90s small-town story that's anything but David Lynch's Twin Peaks. Yes, we understand Twin Peaks isn't a movie per se, but I'm Jake Brown, and I say we recommend it. The show is about a quirky FBI agent who's been assigned to a murder case in the small northern U.S. town of Twin Peaks. When the local homecoming queen mysteriously washes ashore in a plastic bag, Special Agent Dale Cooper looks around town for any and all answers he can get, only to find that this town holds many secrets. Secrets not only of the traditional variety, but also of a supernatural origin. Upon looking deeper and deeper, Coop begins to discover these secrets, and the part he plays in them are much larger than he could have imagined. Twin Peaks ran for only 2 seasons and inspired a less than spectacular movie sequel a year later, making its re-entry into the world of the weird in 2016, with a limited season of 9 episodes and the passage of the past 25 years playing a central role in the story. I tell ya, it just makes me want to sing. Oh, Mersey. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Silver Screen Slam, as it's one we've held close to our hearts. Considering it was a bit more of a serious episode, let's take a look at my impersonation of Willem Dafoe. Join us next episode when we'll be looking at the 1984 Mozart music marvel Amadeus, directed by Milos Forman and starring F. Murray Abraham and Tom Hulce. If you have anything you'd like to voice about next episode's film, or if you enjoy the show in general, feel free to look up our social media outlets at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jake Brown, asking you to pass the asparagus and to get outside more and watch some movies. Thank you. Oh, Mersey dotes and dozy dotes and little lamsey divey, kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? Oh, dozy dotes and little lamsey divey, kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? Now if the notes sound queer and funny to your ear, a little bit jumbled and jivey, just say, mares eat oats and does eat oats and little lambs eat ivy. Oh, Mersey You're good with the good? Good with the good. I say a kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? Nope, we're good. Good on my end. Are you good? Audio systems, check. Check, check. Testing. 1, 2. Testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. -2, -2, 8, 18, 17, -3, 10, 13, -2, 9, 4, 10, 4, 14, 12, 20, 10, 5, 20, -5, 3, 15, 5, 7, -6. Testing, testing, testing. We good?